You are now watching The Meech.
The Nintendo 3DS has one of the most fascinating stories in gaming. When it launched in 2011, many thought it was going to fail due to the rise of mobile gaming. It was assumed the DS wouldn't have a place anymore because smartphones were taking off. Little did they know that that failure would not only become a success, but would also continue to get new games for a whopping 8 years. Nintendo handhelds have historically had the lifespan of a tortoise. The Nintendo DS, for example, launched in 2004 and got its last major first-party game in 2012, being Pokemon Black and White 2. Now that is a divine way to go out. Considering both the DS and 3DS lasted for 8 years, what makes it so weird that the 3DS lasted as long as it did? Well, it wasn't even an afterthought for the DS. I'll tell you why. It's because when the 3DS launched, outside of a few games like Kirby Mass Attack and Pokemon Black and White 2, the DS was pretty much done for dinner.
You're so 2004. The 3DS is like so 2011.
But with the 3DS, it was still getting support after the launch of the Nintendo Switch. After the failure of the Wii U, Nintendo needed a backup plan just in case the Switch failed. That of course being the 3DS. A new model was released in the summer of 2017, being the new Nintendo 2DS XL, and it saw quite a few new games that year as well. It's totally normal for a console to get a few new games after a new one launches for about a year, but it still made sense to have the 3DS available alongside the Switch as an entry-level console. The 2DS was only $80 and it came with Mario Kart 7. Now, all we get are broken controllers for $80. The new Nintendo 2DS XL was also very affordable, being around $150, and that also came with Mario Kart 7. By 2017, the 3DS already had a massive library of games, and Nintendo promoted the Nintendo Selects line, which had a bunch of the most popular 3DS games for only $20 a piece. What Nintendo should have done is focus the marketing on the price and already existing games. What they shouldn't have done is continue to make new games for it. Looking at the 3DS games that launched after the Switch, it was becoming more and more apparent that almost all of them should have been made for the Switch. Only one of them truly benefited and belonged on the 3DS, being WarioWare Gold. But seeing things like Luigi's Mansion being remade for the 3DS instead of the Switch was incredibly disappointing. On its own, it's actually a great remake, but considering how incredible Luigi's Mansion 3 looks, it was a huge disappointment not having it remade for the Switch. All eyes not damaged by 3D were on the Switch, and players were ready to move on from the 3DS. Nowhere is this more apparent than with the sales of these games. Most didn't even sell 1 million copies, but their impact was negligible. They were just kinda there. But there is one game specifically that is the exception. This is Mario Clash, for the failed Virtual Boy, a console that couldn't even sell 1 million units. And this is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey for the successful 3DS, the console that sold almost 70 million. What do these games have in common? They sold about the same. This is what Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey is primarily known for. The impact, how poorly it's sold. But the quality of the game itself isn't often talked about. It's a full-on remake of Bowser's Inside Story, along with a brand new campaign, being Bowser Jr.'s Journey. So the question is the most destructive Nintendo game actually good? Or is it just as bad as the sales? Our story begins with the Mushroom Kingdom facing sickness. The Blorbs have caused the Toad residents to balloon in size like a mukbang YouTuber. Peach then hosts an emergency meeting to address the issue, which is when the Mario Brothers and Starlo show up. Bowser, jealous that he wasn't invited for some reason, crashes the meeting, but then gets defeated by the Mario Brothers. Bowser was so devastated that he resorted to opening 7 hotels. Oh, sorry, wrong game. No, he almost started a life of crime. He is then offered a mysterious mushroom by a guy in the woods, because if a man in the woods wearing a lime green suit offers you a sketchy looking mushroom, of course you should eat it, right? Bowser then instantly regrets his decision, because that caused him to inhale the entire Mushroom Kingdom and the Mario Brothers. It's then up to the Mario Brothers to navigate through Bowser's body to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Unlike most games that I cover, such as platformers and kart racers, this is an RPG, so the story is crucial to the experience. Summarizing the plot would essentially spoil the game, so I'll only be going over what I thought about the story without spoiling anything. It's excellent. The Mario and Luigi games are known for their silly take on Mario RPGs, but that doesn't stop the story from having depth. You'll meet all kinds of interesting new characters along the way, as well as encountering many hilarious moments. Some remakes change up the story of a game, but it remains the same here as it was in the original, and considering just how unique and cool it is, that's definitely a good thing. But one area of Bowser's Inside Story that could benefit from improvements is with the gameplay. The gameplay of the Bowser's Inside Story remake is what you'd expect from a Mario and Luigi game. It's primarily an RPG, with platforming and puzzle elements thrown in, but this time around, you'll be controlling not only the Mario brothers, but Bowser as well. You'll be controlling Bowser in the overworld similar to most of the Mario RPGs, but considering Bowser is an absolute beast, he can use his own moves such as punching enemies with brute force and breathing fire. They did a great job making Bowser fun to control, and you really do feel like you've taken the role of him. The Mario brothers, on the other hand, are similar to how they played in the Mario and Luigi games before, but the sections are mostly in 2D and take place in Bowser's body. Just like most Mario and Luigi games, Mario and Luigi have abilities that they can use. They are primarily used to solve puzzles in the platforming sections of the game, as well as other aspects in Bowser's body. You'll be able to do things such as tornado across gaps you couldn't clear with a standard jump, and Luigi can even squish Mario so he can fit through smaller areas. Whether you're playing the Bowser or the Mario and Luigi sections, the gameplay is consistently intuitive. Never did I feel the objectives were cryptic to solve, and everything made sense. But it's not just limited to platforming. There are quite a few sections in the game where you'll play mini-games. These primarily take place with the Mario brothers in Bowser's body, and these include things such as making Bowser sneeze, pumping him up, and most notoriously, eating the carrot. Most require the touchscreen, and while they can sometimes be frustrating, they add a lot of variety and are usually fun to play. And considering this is a remake, that infamous carrot minigame you might be wondering about. Is it just as hard as it was in the original? And I'm happy to say, it was made to be easier and much more enjoyable, and there are definitely more improvements throughout the game. Already, we have an excellent foundation, but considering this is an RPG, there's also turn-based combat, both for Bowser and the Mario brothers. The battle system in Mario and Luigi games has remained consistent, but it's refined with each entry. On the Mario Brothers side, you have the options of using a standard jump or hammer, an item, or a special attack. Well, you can also run, but battles are crucial to the game and you won't want to do that, unlike another 3DS Mario quote-unquote RPG. They can use unlimited standard attacks, but they don't deal much damage. This is where the special attacks come into play. These special moves can deal a great amount of damage, but will cost Brothers points. They also play out like a sort of minigame as well. Some use standard power-ups like the Fire Flower, but they become even more interesting when they do their own thing. On the Bowser side, the setup is similar, but his attacks are a little bit different. He can punch and breathe fires for his standard attacks, as well as being able to use his minions for his own special attacks. In the grand scheme of things, using a fiery drumstick instead of a super mushroom to regain health isn't a game changer. The main difference is that the Bowser sections have the attention on just Bowser, where you'll have to split your attention between the Mario Brothers and the Brothers sections. But regardless, the battle system is excellent. What makes it great is the timing. The better your timing is, the greater amount of damage you'll deal to the enemies. It will take practice, and this also applies to avoiding attacks from enemies, but when you nail everything down, it is incredibly satisfying. But in addition to standard battles, there are a few giant Bowser battles. They've been remade to use 3D models instead of sprites, and the microphone garbage is removed. Although they look cool, they're way too easy most of the time and drag on way too long. You'll be using the touchscreen and turning the 3DS vertically to play them, and I just didn't find them to be that enjoyable. But there's such a minuscule issue in the grand scheme of the game, because everything else here is stellar. You have great exploration, an excellent battle system, and a ton of variety, and that right there is peak game design. But here's the thing. All this outside of the lack of quality of life improvements apply to the original Bowser's Inside Story as well. The remake does have a few improvements gameplay-wise, but honestly, there wasn't much wrong with the original Bowser's Inside Story that needed fixing. But where the game is undoubtedly a remake is with the visual presentation. Starting with Mario and Luigi Dream Team, the series incorporated a new art style. Rather than going for the outline pixel look, it has a more cel-shaded look. What looks better comes down to a matter of preference, but personally, I prefer the art style in the remake. It does a great job taking the artwork of the Mario and Luigi games and translating them to sprites. I couldn't even imagine how great a Mario and Luigi 6 on the Switch would look. And the cool thing is that you'll get to see characters like Midbus and the enemies here in the modern art style. The environments also have been upgraded to incorporate far better textures and a greater attention to detail. The overall visual presentation is a complete overhaul and looks great. Music also has been remastered for the 3DS, meaning that it's not compressed like on the DS and sounds even better. And the original soundtrack on the DS was incredible, so you can only imagine how good it sounds here. The presentation is where the game was definitely remade the most, and overall, it's excellent. But I do have some gripes. There is no stereoscopic 3D. Dream Team used a new art style with the 3D in mind, and to not have it here is disappointing. I can't say I'm too surprised, considering most late 3DS games abandon the 3D, but it still is a bummer it's not here. But what is surprising is that the game runs at 30 frames per second instead of 60. Ever since the Kirby Star Allies retrospective, many think I'll denounce a game if it runs at 30 frames per second, and while I prefer 60 frames, it's not a huge deal if a game is either optimized around it, or is in a game where the frame rate doesn't matter too much. I went back to play the Superstar Saga remake, which is 60 frames per second, to see if it would be jarring going back to Inside Story, but outside the first few seconds, it's not even a major issue. I can understand the lack of 3D, but the 30 frames per second frame rate is kinda baffling. But those aren't a huge deal considering just how great the overall presentation is. When it comes to content, you're getting a full-on Mario RPG, so at the minimum, expect a good 20 hours, probably more. A remake of Bowser's Inside Story alone is substantial enough to be a full game, but in addition to Bowser's Inside Story, you're getting a brand new side campaign called Bowser Jr.'s Journey. The story of Bowser Jr.'s journey showcases what Bowser Jr. is up to, while his father and the Mario Brothers are essentially playing Fantastic Voyage. The story here is also integral to the game, and is a major part of the experience. And just like with Bowser's Inside Story, Bowser Jr.'s journey has an excellent story. Where it really shines is with the character development for Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings. Bowser Jr. can reach Angelica levels of bratty and obnoxious. We sorta had an idea that's how his personality is, but my goodness, Journey makes it more apparent than ever. The Koopalings are tasked to watch over Bowser Jr., and the game does a great job showcasing their personalities. Roy does not take any of Jr.'s nonsense, and you know those pink sunglasses mean he means business. Iggy is a nerdy guy who wants to impress Bowser, but isn't all that confident. And Morton Koopa Jr., he caveman. They genuinely have the best interest of Bowser, but Jr. will often push them to their breaking points. Already, this game has successfully accomplished two things. The notion of the Koopalings no longer being Bowser's kids has always irked me, but I have come to terms with it and realized that they are indeed Bowser's kids, but they all disowned him because Jr. is an obnoxious, whiny, cold-blooded brat. And when it comes to giving the Koopalings personalities, this game nails it. The story is excellent, one of the coolest in the Mario series. But how is the gameplay? Going into it, you would initially expect it to be an extension of the turn-based combat of the Mario and Luigi games, but as it turns out, it's radically different. You'll be fighting waves of enemies and will need to build up a team to defeat them. There are three types being melee, ranged, and flying enemies. Melee beats ranged, flying beats melee, and ranged beats flying, so it's quite literally a good old Rochambeau game, but expanded upon. You can also use different abilities to take down another team, such as rallying your enemies up to make them stronger, and even teaming up with a Koopaling for a special move. What threw me off for a loop was finding out that it's mostly a hands-off experience. Once you line up your team, they'll do a lot of the fighting automatically, but there is still some player input, specifically when teammates can pull off special moves, which is actually in line with the traditional Mario and Luigi combat. If you're expecting an extension of the Mario and Luigi gameplay, similar to how Bowser's Fury expanded on 3D World, you won't get that, because you're getting Demich's Fury. I'm just kidding. While the gameplay isn't anywhere near as intuitive as the main game, it's still fun even if it can get a bit repetitive, but the story makes it all the worthwhile. The presentation is also great with the same art style as the main game, as well as some new music. I also love the sound effects here. Bowser's Inside Story is without a doubt the main course, but Bowser Jr.'s journey is a nice dessert to have. So far we've established that Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s journey has excellent gameplay, a memorable story, great characters, and a stellar presentation, and even though the gameplay isn't anything spectacular, Bowser Jr.'s journey is still a good time, if anything for the story. So what's the verdict? Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is what I consider to be the best Mario RPG ever made. Between that and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, the two are very close. But Bowser's Inside Story has a slight edge because I found the gameplay to be even better. Both are fantastic games though, so you could essentially consider them tied. And with the remake being an improvement, of course it's getting the ranking of treasure. I'd even go beyond that and give it the ranking of Platinum Treasure. From the enhanced presentation to the quality of life improvements and even an entire side campaign, it serves as a great remake that exceeds the original. Whether you prefer it over the original will mostly come down to what art style you prefer, but no matter how you slice it, it's Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, one of the greatest games in the entire Mario series. So my question is, how could a game this good become one of the worst selling Mario games? For starters, it's a Nintendo DS remake on the backwards compatible Nintendo 3DS, a DS game mind you that wasn't even a decade old when the remake released. Partners in Time would have been a far better game to remake, considering it released all the way back in 2005, and it's the second Mario and Luigi game. It was also sort of uncommon to find later down the line, only getting a re-release at Toys R Us at some point in 2010. By no means a rare game, but it would have made far more sense to remake that game. But hey, Wii Sports Club is a remake of a Wii game on the Wii U. Oh my gosh, never mind, it looks faded! Having it be a remake of a game on a backwards compatible system, that already puts it at a major disadvantage, and even I'll admit, the remake was unnecessary. But Nintendo has been great with marketing since the Switch era, which this game released about 2 years after, so the marketing was great. Right? There's bad marketing, but then there's virtually no marketing. Outside of a few trailers and a commercial exclusive to Japan, there was essentially no marketing. But hey, it's a Mario game, so it should sell well regardless, right? This game released in the worst possible month of the year to release a game, January. Christmas was only a few weeks ago, so parents and consumers were still done after Christmas shopping. But you know what? We'll give it another benefit of a doubt. It released on the successful 3DS, so I'm sure people were still buying this game released in 2019! By 2017, people were done actively buying games for the 3DS. Yeah, look at a game like Mario Party The Top 100. Oh, the 3DS sold so well. Yeah, it looks like people were buying Mario Party The Top 100 for the 3DS, a great platform for a party game! Okay, Mario Party The Top 100 is a bad game, so you know what? We'll give this the benefit of the doubt again. Oh wait, never mind, because the only other 3DS game released by Nintendo in 2019, being Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, didn't do so well either despite being a great game. A remake of a backwards compatible game, no marketing, releasing on the 3DS in 2019, January 2019. I'm gonna be blunt, this is a setup for disaster. But at the very least, it was in the spotlight for Nintendo's January 2019. Released on January 11th, 2019, this game was... Hold up. Why does that date sound so familiar? Maybe Nintendo released some DLC or had a mini-direct that day? Let me just check on that. Oh my goodness. You're not gonna believe this, but Nintendo released not just another game on the same day, not just one of their most popular games on that day, but one of the most popular Mario games on the same day. They released New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe the same exact day as Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. First of all, that is completely idiotic to do. Any moron could tell you that. Releasing two games in the same series on the same day? That would be a bad idea!
Hey Mario, you might want to put out one game because I still need time to eat Krabby Patties after I count the bubbles after I...
Even Morton Koopa Jr. would be better at marketing, and if you played Bowser Jr.'s Journey, you will know how moronic the guy is. Not only that, but Nintendo actually bothered to market New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe while Bowser's Inside Story was in the shadows. And worst of all, being outshined by one of the laziest, blandest, underwhelming, and soulless corporate cash grab Mario games is enough to shatter anyone's self-esteem into microscopic pieces. one of the best, most creative, and cool Mario games was outshined by the game that introduced Peachette. And worst of all, this is why AlphaDream went out of business. Nintendo, your stupidity is getting what it deserves. Because I have fury. Maximum fury.
I am back. It's time to annihilate every copy of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for good. Toads, all types of toads. Mario and Waluigi toads. You are so generic, you make great value look like Gucci. Only filthy casuals like you, because they don't know any better. Get ready for the true powers of my Switch. Truly Nintendo Switch my way. I have to say, even Mario Clash is better than this trash.